April 8th, 2024 Select Board meeting. First pledge is Pledge Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First up is the acceptance and correction of minutes from 3/25/24 public and non-public.
I'll make a motion, we accept the minutes from 3/25/24, public and non-public minutes with corrections if need be.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Kelly. In discussion, corrections, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. So as some of you may or may not have, is I did go through and do
Thank you, sir.
assignments. Pass that down to those guys.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you.
Not much has changed. There was a couple of, Kelly's gonna do the budget, and I'm gonna back her up, because there's a lot of budget meetings at that time of year, so her and I can, Jim, CIP, Collis Conservation again.
Yep.
Kelly's gonna do Economic Development. Mark, you're on Historic District again.
Yep.
I'm doing the library this year. Jim's gonna do Parks and Rec. Collis again, Planning Board.
Yep.
Jim Craig, Sewer Commission. Mark, Highway Safety.
Yep.
Jim, Joint Lots is a quarterly meeting. And then again, Collis on the Village Ad Hoc Committee.
Yes.
Okay, there also needs to be, I don't know if we, whereabouts it is here, but there also needs to be somebody appointed to the negotiation committee with the fire department. And seeing I'm only doing one thing, I'll go ahead and do that again, because I've done it for 3 years now. It's 3 times. This will be my 3rd time, so I'm in good with those guys. So I'll do that. See, I only have the library. Is there anybody here for public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on. Announcements, I didn't have any. Select board discussion, I just did the committee assignments, and we'll call up the fire chief. And we're on tab 7. I guess this would be a dual thing with you and the chief, right, Derek? Because you were involved in this discussion.
Yep. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm here tonight to discuss PFAS at the fire department and a letter from the Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. Board members may recall that back a couple years ago, they were doing some ground testing in the area of the fire station. They found elevated PFAS levels over on Depot Street. The Department of Environmental Services come back and said they want to have some testing done, which we did last year. They put in some test pits, they did some ground soil sampling, and we hired Nobis Corp, and they're an environmental corporation that, well, we're required by DES to have a environmental engineer. So we spent around $30,000 and they did all that testing. At the end of, actually 2 years ago, the report was submitted. Just recently, we got the report. We got a letter from DES saying they've gone over the report and the results, and they'd like us to expand our testing a little. In order to do that, that's going to cost further money. And so I'm here before the board tonight to ask the board to consider us holding off on that testing by going out in August and September for bids to have the work done. And then once we find out what the cost is gonna be, we'll put it into next year's budget because of the, the default budget. Derek and I have been working on it together, and we think that's probably the best way to go. we can do that. DES does understand, you know, that some municipalities have limitations on this. The one other piece I can tell you though is what they thought was coming from the fire department, you know, from foam testing and stuff, isn't coming from the fire department. So in that aspect, it's good, you know. It's something separate over there, has nothing to do with us, but they want to expand it just a little, just to reconfirm that.
Go ahead, Jim.
Do they know what's causing the pollution?
Over there, no.
So it might not have anything to do with us, but we own it, so we
Right.
gotta,
Yep.
Mark?
The other parties involved on this side of the street, will they be doing any testing, chief, or are we gonna be the only ones doing testing?
That I don't know. That's entirely, matter of fact, we're sort of,
Yeah, and I think if you look at the DES letter that's in your packet, they did ask for some off-site testing. That is across the street from church. They identified 2 parcels that they requested a monitoring well to be installed on, so.
Okay.
Okay. But my question is, I guess, if they don't think it's coming from us, why are we required to do it?
because of the, you know, the property we own and that little stream that goes behind the fire station. I guess they didn't go out far enough last time, so they just want to bring it out a little further to eliminate, you know, down behind the fire station and that land that goes around the stream.
So you're gonna go out to bid, you anticipate it being probably approximately the same, 30,000 or whatever?
I would say somewhere
Yeah.
in that ballpark.
Okay. Any other questions?
yeah,
Go ahead, Jim.
I think when you first did this, I asked about insurance. Is there any, and I think they denied coverage?
Yes, we did send it to Primex. I looked back in 2021, when the board approved us to go with Novus for the first investigation. We did submit a complaint, or a claim to Primex. They denied it, and we actually had the town attorney look over our insurance policy and their denial, and they agreed that that was proper under our current. Yeah, the one is when it gets into pollution, there is a pretty big exclusion in the Primex
It's always
policy.
an exclusion. Yeah.
Derek, without getting into a lot of detail, why did they deny the claim? Just
Because
very
of,
briefly.
I can send people the correspondence, but it had to do with the exclusions in our property
Okay, all right.
liability policy.
Okay.
Did you get a letter from our council?
We did back then, and we shared it with you in 2021. I can resend that to
Well, yeah, I'd like
board
to see that.
members.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else?
Motion.
Yep.
I'll make a motion to authorize the fire chief to develop a bid spec for additional FSI testing and reporting services in August and September, and develop a budget cost for the 2025 fiscal budget.
Second.
Motion by Kelly, seconded by Mark. Any further discussion? Seeing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Go. Chief?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So, I'm here tonight to discuss our cruiser situation. I feel like this is happening every year during this time of year. So, as you guys all remember, we budgeted and asked both your board and the budget committee to try to buy a Tahoe this year as well as 2 cruisers. Unfortunately, because we went to default, we've looked through the budget and found that we're actually down about $11,000, and we thought that this would not be the year to spend, or we can't afford to buy this Tahoe. So Lieutenant Hammond went through and did some research on trying to find 3 Ford SUVs to replace our cruisers, and he submitted a memo to me, which I forwarded to you guys, but essentially, we have enough money in our default budget to fully outfit 3 Ford Explorers. The problem is state bid. The people who have state bid do not have any in stock. which is Irwin. We did find McFarland, who has 40 in stock 2024s, but they are about $300 more. So I'm here to ask you guys first permission to buy the 3 Fords, because we're going to deviate from the initial ask of the 1 Tahoe and the 2 Ford Explorers. So I'm going to ask you guys to permission to buy the 3, and the total cost of buying 3 2024s fully outfitted is $180,361, and we're at default at $180,000. So I was going to ask you guys permission to go outside of state bid and use McFarland because they have them in stock, and spend about $361, a little bit more than we have for budget. And I can work with finance to see if there's some money in our detail revolving fund that we can maybe expend on some of the extra equipment on the back end of the purchase. Again, we're just kind of, it seems like they had just enough Fords, and then they ran out of stock, said we're not getting any more, we have no more to sell. So that's what we're looking to do this year, with your guys' permission.
Kelly?
So when you say fully outfitted, it is truly everything?
Yep, so
And are we gonna be able to repurpose anything from the other vehicles?
So, so the cruisers are 43.5, and then fully done is about 60,000 with everything brand new, all light bars, everything. At this point, the way we've been operating is the brand new cars are getting new cages, new lights, everything's being put in brand new. So that's the total cost where we're at. I have not gone and seen what Global can do, our vendor who outfits our cars, to see what the cost is of taking stuff out of the car and then repurposing it to a new car,
Yeah.
rather than ordering new stuff and just putting it in.
So I wonder if that could save us that little bit of money.
We do have a changeover fee of $500, but that changeover fee is when they take everything out of the car that we're replacing that's going to become the new staff car or detective's car. They charge us $500 to basically put in a smaller light package that we've been using for 15 years. That's what they charge on that. The only question is, so they're charging us about $14,500 to outfit the car completely. I don't know what they would cost to take one off of one car and put it on another, what the cost is there.
Do you think if you told them that, they would be willing to work with us?
We can talk to them, yeah.
'Cause that might be an idea to.
Mark?
So as we waited the last purchases when we bought the car, will they have everything in stock, or are we gonna have to wait for things to be made and things to come in cheap? Do we know that yet?
My understanding is the faster we tell Global that we bought these cars, they start ordering everything and it's coming in. I think the stuff that we've been getting ourselves kind of in a little bit of a issue is when the Fords were changing the dimensions.
Correct.
Everything they have in stock is now not working, so they have to buy all the new stuff. My understanding is currently right now the Fords are, the 24s are still the same dimensions, so it should be in stock. It always ends up being however fast we get the cars ordered, then we can tell Global we're good to go. Because they won't order them until we give them a commitment that we have the cars. They don't want them sitting in their warehouse.
Okay, so we need to pick up the chassis, the cars.
Yep.
And then we take them to Global.
Yep, so
Now,
we
if there haven't been any changes, even the minor thing, like maybe just the light bars or something, we could use over and save a couple $100 here and a couple $100 there if it's, they're gonna have light bars anyway, right?
I can talk to them. I mean,
I mean,
the average light bar is about $1,000, and we've been getting new ones because we want to make sure that we're staying consistent with the new technology. So some of the old cars that we're replacing still have some of the older light bars. If we do, I'll look into if it's a newer technology, definitely we'll see if we can work that out.
Okay.
I just don't want to keep some of the old stuff in the newer cars.
Or maybe asking Irwin, if they'd be able to give us a little bit of a break for.
Irwin doesn't do that. He sends the cars, he buys the cars
Yeah,
at a dealer, and then the dealer goes to.
so Irwin's
cars go
usually,
Global to have the stuff.
yeah, Irwin's our dealer to buy the cars. They're the ones that have state bid, and they have no 24s left. They're
Oh,
gone.
okay, okay.
So we have to get it from Govern. Global's who our vendor is that will buy all the parts and put them in. So
So the bottom line delivered is 63,000, did I hear, is that
each
right?
cruiser is $60,120. fully done with Sousa doing the striping and all the light bars, the cages, everything that they have in them.
We might be able to find out. What
Two
happens
nickels
to
and
all the
dimes,
old
you
stuff?
know.
Most of it, we either, well, we still have a lot of stuff in our basement, but
Down in storage.
yeah, I think we've been trying to figure out how a way we can work with Danielle to sell some of it. But again, we don't really sell the light bars because we don't want blue lights on people's cars.
I get it,
So
yeah.
we have been cannibalizing some of that. If a LED goes out, they'll pick a part out of that and put it in, but we still have a lot of stuff in the basement.
Don't give one to Rick either.
Yeah.
A taser and a light?
No, yeah.
I'm
No.
upgraded. You're upgrading me.
So,
All right, so I think we
So-
need a motion to approve the purchase.
So I'll make a motion that we approve the purchase of the 3 vehicles for the total price quoted per vehicle is $43,500. And then Chief, is that fair to say, and then we'll figure out if we can,
how do you want me to proceed with that? Do you want me to come back and ask you permission to get the outfitting, or do you want me just to try to work it out and don't go over this total cost?
I'd rather have them work it out and not go over the total cost, but, I mean, the longer we wait, the harder it's gonna be.
well, that's
No,
if we
I
get the
think-
car.
Just a second. She's authorized, her bid, is to authorize the purchase of the cars which are over the state bid. That's what you're here for right now. The outfitting was already considered in
Yes.
the original
Right.
amount. So we're just talking about buying the cab, the actual vehicle, over the original state bid.
Yes.
Would that be correct?
That is correct. Yes, thank you.
I'll second Kelly's motion.
So motion by Kelly, seconded by Mark. Any other discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
Great, thank you. And I'll keep you guys in the loop on the other thing.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Yep.
Adam?
Good evening. Okay, I got 2 items tonight. I think the first one in your packets is the 6-wheel truck chassis
You're at tab 9.
Yeah.
from 2022. I apologize, the memo I had, the information I had before packets went to print was pretty thin, but as an overview of the issue, so in 2022, we had a sealed bid process, and the board awarded purchase of a 6-wheel truck chassis from Allegiance Trucking in Manchester, and a body and plow upfit from Viking Civis in Vermont. Fast forward now, a year and a half later, the truck has been delivered, we're about to be delivered from the factory, and turns out that the sales rep who put in the truck build submitted something different than what was built by the factory. So the exhaust system is behind the cab, which it shouldn't be, which extends basically where everything would be mounted to the truck by 2 feet. So their solution would be to move the rear axle set 2 feet back, mount the body 2 feet back from where it normally would be, so you'd see a cab, a little bit of exhaust stuff, and then a gap, and then the truck, the body, which then unfortunately, because now the mounting posts for the wing plow is now 2 feet further back, the regular wings that we have don't work anymore. You have to get a 2 foot longer wing, so we jump up to the next size, which is a 12 foot. So we'd be it would be a Frankenstein of a truck to begin with, but we'd also have a very long truck compared to what we normally have, longer wheelbase, longer turning radius, and a longer plow. So it's kind of a something we don't really want to touch, unfortunately. The Allegiance Trucking rep said that that's their only solution right now. The other option would be to decline the truck and wait. They can't currently order a 2025 model year truck. When they could, we could get in line, decide if we want to pay whatever the current rates are, the pricing wouldn't hold, and then place an order, and I presume it would be another 1.5 year time frame until we would see the truck chassis. I don't know if the body company then would wait another 2 years and hold their pricing from 2022 for the upfit. So in anticipation of the meeting, we had requested some information that kind of came in on Friday and today. So the number 2 bidder, the second low bidder from 2022, had 4 trucks left in their allocation of the 2024. They have 3 that are being taken by another community. They also wanted the 4th, but they said that because they knew we might be interested, they're going to hold it until a decision can be made. So we could get a truck from Advantage Truck Group, ATG. They were the second low bidder. All in, the price there would be $129,081. And that is just over $10,000, I guess $11,000 more than the award back in 2022. The award in 22 to Allegiance was $118,089. Then they could get the truck delivered to us by October, then to the body company. They need it for a few months, but they're holding their pricing from 2022. So all in, we'd be at $228,281 if we go with that option. The other track, HP Fairfield, another big truck dealer in New Hampshire, has 3 trucks that they built on spec. They've purchased them, they had them upfit, and now they have 3 on the lot ready to go. Unfortunately, because of that, they're asking a premium. So the next cheapest truck will be over $240,000. They've got one for $249,000, which is pretty close to our spec. $249,000. That's all in.
Oh, okay.
And then another truck, a Western Star, which is $280,000, I think. So any of those options were already 20+ thousand, kind of more than the second best option. So long way of saying tonight, I prefer we don't proceed with the Allegiance Trucking, the Frankenstein, longer truck, longer plow. I don't want to wait another year and a half, so I would recommend tonight that we award to Advantage Truck Group of Manchester, New Hampshire, purchase of a 6-wheel 2024 truck chassis for $129,081. I did speak with Derek earlier today, and he's spoken with the accountant, and they believe that even though it's a 2022 PO, because of what's transpired, and we're still purchasing the truck, which is what the money was encumbered for, we can still proceed. That does leave about $11,000 from my CIP that we'll have to short something else this year or come up with from another line at some point, but
Can we
we
ask
do need to.
Allegiance to pay the difference?
That may or may
they
not
need
be
to
a
pay- they need to-
non-meeting, non-public, public, I'm not sure.
It's probably non-public.
Okay, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Probably-
I mean, they can't just be like, sorry.
Yeah.
Good
I'd
luck.
probably like to see our contract we had with them too,
Yeah.
if that's available.
I think in this, yeah, we can certainly get it. It's really the bid documents and the build sheets, so.
Lord knows we give them enough money.
Yeah. I'd like to look at that first.
Okay, do you want to hold off on a vote until after non-public on that one?
Yeah.
Okay. Second item then I have tonight is the 2024 road plan. In a nutshell, we've got approximately 6.5% of the total town's road network programmed for this for 2024, and this is based on the fact that we are in a situation where asphalt pricing has recently gone up almost 20% from last year. Last year we accomplished about 9% of the total road network, so it's about, if you average it out, an 11-year return cycle to roads, which is pretty reasonable. 6.5% gets you a little bit longer. But we're still in decent shape, and this would all be in-house drainage work and everything except the paving and reclaim, which would be by Continental Paving, who had the asphalt bid. So if you look at the attachment on this one, here will be the proposed list. I should note, I should have starred these for you, but several of these are actually holdovers from 2023. As you recall, I'm sure we contracted out a bunch of work because we were so short-handed that we ended up deferring a fair amount of work from 2023. So Laurel, Heald, Lindsay, Serenita, Sunbeam, Mountain Road, Westwood, Mass, Pinard, and Louis Street were all 2023 items. In 2023, to be fair, we did have a few 2022 holdovers as well. So we usually have a couple items, but this is a little bit longer of a deferral list than I would have liked for sure. But here we are. So here's a proposal. It's got about a third of the streets are a full rebuild, reclaim, drainage work. A lot of these are in Pinardville, certainly to finish the neighborhood that we started a few years back. We've got some maintenance overlays on a couple of main roads, sections of Tibbetts Hill, long section of Mountain Road, a short section of Montalona. We have obviously the work on Mass Road that you approved a couple weeks ago. And in addition to that, Pinard Street, Theophile, and Henriette, all three of those short segments till you get to the Manchester town line would be done. We've got Louis Street, which was rebuilt with the sewer department a couple years ago, and we didn't get to the top coats last year there. And then the end of the list are all the top coats from previous season reclaims. So they've all been base paved, but.
Now, are some of those carried over in the budget from last year?
We are starting from, Peter has been robbed to pay Paul, and
Because there's a road on here that's missing, was Tipping Rock, which is a goat path. And that needs some serious work.
Tipping Rock needs basically a rebuild and full drainage, probably some blasting, potentially some right-of-way purchase. We've been looking, it is near the top of the short list.
Well, I don't see it on any list.
On our DPW list,
Oh,
so, not on the 24 list. But just weren't between the budget and not being ready with any of that type of stuff, the right-of-way purchase and the drainage work that's gonna be entailed. It's a pretty, we could shim it and get away with, another 5-6 years, but where the base is, like you said, a goat path, it's not gonna last. And the problem with paving a pretty steep, narrow section of road like that is it's gonna cause some runoff problems if we're not careful. So we would like to do that one right and actually install drainage when we
Okay,
get
so what do we tell the people who are on that road? We told them it was gonna be this year. Out of the mouths of babes comes wisdom, right? And that's what you told us.
This is true. That was the goal. I mean, that's why we try not to put out the list too far in advance, because this inevitably happens. Either we get deferrals or asphalt pricing or budget or whatever. I think we tell them the same thing we probably told Lindsay, Serenadis, and Sunbeam last year. Hey, you guys are right near the top of the list, but you're on the cusp, and we had to make some changes, and default doesn't help. So I'd like to, if I can, instead of last year's result, I'd like to under-promise and over-deliver if we can this year. But I think it's going to be a trick even to get through, what we've got here, just from a time perspective, and that's a pretty hefty job over there.
Okay?
Pete, can I ask
You want a motion? Go ahead.
So with the increased cost of all of the contractors, and we've been having to rely more heavily on contracted services and equipment rentals and stuff like that, how do you foresee this staying in budget I feel like we've just had a really bad run of luck with surprise things on a lot of these roads. And how are you gonna track that this year?
So last year we contracted soup to nuts in a couple cases. So we were down for, at times, 6 full-time positions. So that ratchets up the price, as you might imagine, pretty quickly. This year we have none of that planned. We are almost full staff. Right now we've got 2 vacancies, but the good news is those that we have, aside from those 2 vacancies, almost all have their CDLs. We've got the 1 new employee that doesn't yet, but everybody else does, so that helps. Where we didn't have enough employees for the big trucks, we had to rent in order to keep material moving, and that gets pretty expensive, and then the drainage work. Short answer is the only contracted pieces of these right now that we've planned is the asphalt work, the reclaiming the asphalt themselves. So that's how we budgeted anyway, to stay in budget. If asphalt pricing is a monthly fluctuating commodity, so when our contract points to the DOT's liquid asphalt pricing, so if next month it jumps, I could very well say, well, we might have to tentatively scratch a couple of these, and then if it changes again in August, maybe we'll come back in at the end. Could just as well go down as well, in which case we may be able to tack on a few extra things, but.
Is it possible as we go through the year and these get completed that we put like a price tag on each of the projects? I'm just trying to think ahead for not only budget presentations, but deliberative sessions, stuff like that, like, explaining how much this stuff costs.
Yeah, for sure.
And how few we're able to get done, especially with some of the big, last year we had a lot, but.
Right.
I think that's a great idea. The only problem with that is if you take something like that to the budget committee, you wouldn't want them to say, okay, we're gonna okay this one for 69,000 or 120,000 or.
Yeah, but this is work that's already being done,
Okay, but I'm just saying, we don't want them dictating which roads he's gonna be able to do, that's all. And I think if we go in with a specific number for a specific road, they could say, okay, we can do this road, maybe we don't need to do this road, you can save this amount of money.
Oh, I
Where
just
I-
meant like a look back.
What I've done in the past a couple times is, I try to give them the list of roads that were done, but what I've done a few times is, the cost to reclaim a road is, the old rule of thumb used to be $1 million a mile for a reclaimed road and $100,000 a mile for just an overlay of a pavement.
Yeah.
I can come in with some more up-to-date numbers for those. So when I say, okay, we've got 200, miles here, if we're going to do this on this track, here's kind of why we ask for the money that we ask for, and here's where it goes.
Yeah,
If you're
just
gonna
the
reclaim
asphalt
6,
Alone is gonna be a lot for us
Right.
this year.
Now, do you have these classified as A, B, C?
So,
Just
we've-
Red,
ask
orange, yellow.
generally, I don't really need to tell me, but.
in general, we try not to start Pinardville too early in the season. We try to get a few of the roads that are off in the hinterland. So we've already started Serenitas and Sunbeam. So those will be the first up from a reclaim perspective. Laurel Street in Pinardville would be prior to Ivy and Wall because of the way the neighborhood's laid out and the way the drainage works there. Heald is at the top of Laurel, so that would kind of fall in, so it would be a bing bang around the corner for those. Elm Street, our hope is to start that as soon as we can. We're still working on some utility conflicts. Gas has a few that didn't meet their own specifications, so now when we're telling them we're gonna drop a pipe a foot, it's closer than they would like, so now they're gonna have to raise utilities up. So anyway, we're dealing with a few of those. But that's kind of the order for the reclaims. From the overlay perspective, we try to get on those as early as we can, May, June timeframe, and then kind of end the season probably in Pinardville. So I'm guessing Ivy and Wall, right now, are probably going to be the last two things we do in the fall. But we do also have one other item that's kind of time sensitive with that little short section of Elm Street from the library to Maple Ave. We try to do that when school's out, of course, so we can't start that, but we also want to finish prior to the end of August, so.
Mark, you had a question?
So I'm very familiar with this list here. How does Albert Street fit in to this list with the sewer department? Will that get done this year, or is that gonna get pushed?
So the sewer department is going to complete their work. We had asked them for some numbers about trying to do something similar to what we had done on Louis Street. Albert Street's a little different from a drainage perspective than Louis. It's not a trunk line where it takes water from other streets. It's a dead end.
Yeah.
We asked for change orders from their contractor to see what the price would be, and it was going to cost about 3 streets worth of work to have a contractor go in and do that drainage, plus then take over a portion of the patch, the reclaim, the box out, and the top. The sewer department is going to disturb quite a bit of Albert Street, and the drainage on Albert Street is not terrible. If we're going to do it, fully, we would want to do some drainage, but if they're just going to have a patch and disturb what they need to do, it's livable as is. So sewer is going to come in, do their patch, and we'll come back when we get into the Cross, Higgins, Rochambeau neighborhood, and we'll take care of Albert as well when we go. That way we can actually send the drainage somewhere on Cross Street to an outlet rather than leaching catch basins as is.
So if we do that, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't the road have to have a slope in it so that where the drains are, the water will drain to those and not just kind of puddle in the middle of the road. So, I mean, wouldn't it be to our advantage to pave the entire road?
So what'll happen with sewer when they patch, their patch is gonna be fairly large.
Yep.
It is pretty live sand over
Yep.
there, so it's gonna be wider than a normal trench would be. So when they come in and patch, we're gonna have them give some pitch to, you know, help shed water. But that street, if it does get drainage, will be a reclaim. So when we reclaim, we probably will have to remove some sand and add some gravel on top, and then we'll grade and it'll have the proper slope when we do pave. So it won't be much lost. Sewer won't get quite as much bang for the buck on their paving because it's handwork when it's a patch like that. But we just, you know, where we're already strained for budget, it was just something that, to get drainage that doesn't connect anywhere, it just wasn't as much of a benefit to us as we would have liked.
Anything else? Anybody else?
No?
You need a motion on this, Derek?
I think we usually do get a motion for approval of the road plan as presented.
I'll make a motion, we present the road plan that's been presented for approval this evening.
Second. Motion by Mark, seconded by Collis. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
Okay, thank you. And I'll
Next up
see you in
is-
non-public.
Huh? Yeah. Okay, next up is Town Administrator's Report.
Yes, tab 10, you have your committee meetings assignments for the next 2 weeks. Tomorrow night at 6 PM, the Sewer Commission will be in this room.
Yep.
Thursday at 7 PM, Planning Board will be in this room.
Yes.
Next week, Tuesday at 6 PM, the Budget Committee will be meeting at the High School Media Center.
Yep.
Next week on Wednesday at 6:30 PM, Library Board of Trustees.
Yep.
And 7 PM, Parks and Recs Commission at the Parks and Rec Building.
Yep, I'll be there.
Your next page, you have employee status reports for DPW truck driver, successful completed probationary period. You have a DPW mechanic, successful completion of probationary period. You have 3 supervisors of the checklist. This is a stipend adjustment. You have 2 full-time police dispatchers that are new hires, and you have GTV coordinator inactivation of employee. You have event permits for Glen Lake School Partnership Bike Rodeo on Saturday, April 13th at Glen Lake School. You have Bartlett Elementary School Stuffed Animal Parade on April 19th. Mountain Base Brewery Car Show on April 20th. And the Goffstown Historical Society Old Gnome Day on May 11th in the village. You have a notice of lien on map 32, lot 26E-24. You have the New Hampshire State Form, the MS 232 for appropriations as voted at town meeting. You have a road tracking form for a street name acceptance of Dearborn Circle. And then there were 2 items that were added after the packet was put together. There are 2 deposit vouchers for the Grassmere Town Hall Restoration Fund.
I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Kelly, seconded by Mark. Any questions? Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
Your next page, you have your assessor's recommendations, and I've been told I no longer have to read them all. So,
Yep.
so you have 3 abatement applications that the assessor recommends denial. You have you have 2 abatement applications that the assessor recommends approval. And you have 2 application for prorated assessment. This is for damaged buildings that the assessor recommends approval on.
Make a motion to approve the assessor's recommendations as presented.
Second. Motion by Kelly, seconded by Collis. Any discussion, questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
At tab 10D, you have a budget transfer request from the finance office. This is for the quarterly benefit cash out.
Motion to approve the budget transfer request for the reallocation of $49,731.58 from insurance benefits to various wage lines as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Jim. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
At tab 10E, you have a nomination form for the Piscataquag River Local Advisory Committee. Andy Catarat has been a long-serving Goffstown representative on this committee and has put in a nomination form. This would go up to the state, to DES, for approval, and it's for a 3-year term.
Motion to recommend to the New Hampshire Rivers Management Advisory Committee to appoint Goffstown resident Andrew Cataret as a member of the Piscataquag River Local Advisory Committee for a 3-year term.
Second.
Motion by Collis, seconded by Jim. Any questions, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Your next page, you have volunteer appointments for the Parks and Recreation Commission and Historic District and Heritage Commission. These are all reappointments for existing committee members. On the Parks and Rec Commission, you have Gary Gendron and Brad Parkhurst for 3-year terms. And on HDC, Phil Devanza, Lionel Coulon, Mark Collins as regular members, and Rodney Stark as an alternate member. Also, again, for 3-year terms, all two expire on March 31st, 2027.
I'll make a motion to accept the Parks and Recreation Commission, Gary Gendron, Brad Parkhurst, and also HDC Heritage Committee, Phil Devanza, Lionel Coulomb, Mark Collins, and Rodney Stark, as presented.
Second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Collis. Any questions, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion passes.
At tab 10F, this evening, you have a scheduled vote on the RSA 4114A vote to purchase property on Henry Bridge Road. You held public hearings in accordance with RSA 4114A on February 26th, March 11th, and then March 25th. And your vote must take place, today would be the last day for you to vote after the second public hearing was held.
Did we get any updated correspondence from any of the committees or boards who?
We did not.
So you didn't get recommendations from Planning Board or Conservation Commission?
Not updated recommendations. The Conservation Commission was in your packet on March 25th. They recommended against it, and the Planning Board had made recommendations on February 22nd that they felt they did not have enough information without an available Phase 1 or a site analysis, environmental analysis, or details of what was being planned. But that was their recommendation. They didn't have a formal recommendation.
So their recommendation was that they did not have sufficient information to make an informed decision.
Yes.
And the Conservation Commission also suggests they did not have enough information to make an informed decision.
They recommended
Although there's-
against
Yeah.
adding the comment that they felt they didn't understand the purchase, and then they made a second recommendation that the board seek to acquire it and turn it over to conservation for restoration of the wetlands.
So what's the process from here? We're voting tonight. Tonight's the vote on whether or not to purchase it for in the amount of $120,000, is that correct?
That is what you have for a purchase and sales agreement. The board has had a chance to review the Phase 1 assessment. I have not, we did not make any suggested changes. I'm just waiting for the printed copy from the environmental company. I understand at the last meeting there was some discussion about additional environmental assessment. You would need to amend the P&S with the property owner, and they would need to agree to that if you were going to do further environmental assessment of that property.
This has been going on for 6 months.
So it's my understanding that piece of land is needed so that we can gain access to land further back
Correct.
into the hillside and up above. Correct?
That's correct.
And the purpose of doing that is for
Access to that back property.
what?
Maybe a police station, maybe more Parks and Rec up there, but it's to
we've-
access the back of that property.
So we've seen a concept plan that does show that. Potential police station, potential Parks and Rec building, potential additional recreational fields, potential parking areas, and a potential connector road back through to Elm Street, as I understand it. But we've seen nothing other than that conceptual plan.
Correct. But you can't go any further, Collis. If you don't own the property, you can do all the conceptuals you want. You know, the thing is, we need to own the property, whether we, let's put it this way, whether we use it to access the back property, or we purchase it, and get the Conservation Commission to take it. It's still, Conservation Commission recommended, from what I can understand, we own the property, one way or another.
How so? Other than purchasing it?
Yeah, well, they said we should purchase the property and turn it over to them. Okay, so the big picture is, they're telling us we should purchase the property. I think we should purchase the property, okay? If it comes to fruition that what we want to do with it doesn't work, then the Conservation Commission has a shot at it. If we don't buy it, nobody has a shot at
So
it.
if we don't approve it and we don't buy it, we spent $120,000 on a pipe dream, that maybe we can do something in the backland. We haven't seen any plans, Peter. We haven't seen plans. This, in my opinion,
Let me ask you a question. Do you want to spend a bunch of money on a set of plans and then find out we don't have access to it? That makes no sense.
I'm not done yet, Peter. I think it lacks transparency. When we know that there's at least a plan, and there's been discussions, we've been talking about a police station location for months, many, many months. It's been on our matrix, and we've taken no action. Even though I've asked on several occasions, what are the options that we're looking at for a police station? I've seen none, other than talk about a conceptual plan that may include a police station. We don't know how probable it is. We don't know the cost associated with it. And now, not only are we talking about a police station, we're talking about parks and rec facility, we're talking about playing fields, we're talking about parking areas, and we're talking about a connector road going through to Elm Street. That is not transparent. That lacks transparency. And I think in this day and age, when people in this town are expecting and demanding transparency, when they're hurting to pay their tax bills, when they're alarmed at what's going on, we need to be completely transparent. And if we're not transparent with the public, we're not doing our job. So I'm not going to support this unless I know that it's been fully thought through and we're not spending $120,000 to get across the little piece of wetland to some backland for something. We don't know what, something. That to me is not good governance. So I won't be supporting the motion.
I could understand that. We haven't got a motion on the floor yet. But just to speak to what you just said. Number one, we did have somebody look at it and said it was possible to get up over the back, okay? Second of all, we don't want this to become a debate on a police station or a Parks and Rec or anything like that. We want access to the backside of that property. And if that access eventually leads to possibilities that we could have put more Parks and Rec or a police station up there, that's fine. That's a different vote. The vote now is to get a piece of property that'll get us on top of that hill. That's what we're voting on, not on a police station. If you start talking, if you bring it up and say, oh, we're gonna put a police station, then the debate doesn't come about putting a road to the back of the property for access. It becomes a debate on whether we need a police station. And that's what we're trying to avoid.
But that parcel is not going to get us to the top of the hill. It's at the base of the hill, it's wet, it's along Harry Brook, it's in the flood zone. We know all of this. We know it's been a problematic piece of property right from the start. And I want to see more thought go into this. Yes, we saw DPW take a quick look at it, and it was only a quick look. And their feedback was, yeah, you could build it. You know, it takes some retaining walls, it would take a lot of earth moving. Hey, I'm an engineer, you can build anything. I know you can build it. That's not the question. The question is at what cost? And we don't know, we don't have that information.
Can I ask a question? Didn't one of the committees that looked at it, was the planning, said we don't know what it's for and that we're not gonna make any decision, kind of?
So, in your last, I actually pulled up your packet from your last
Or
meeting.
something like that.
The planning board made the following comment at their meeting on February 22nd. Kimberly Peace made a motion that planning board has no comments because they do not have enough information to make an informed decision at this time. They felt the review of the environmental site assessment is imperative before making any decisions.
My next
Which we did.
Matt, and my next question, if we, is it motion to table proper?
So if you were going to do that, you would have to start the 4114A process again.
Would that be a problem with the PNS fire?
Potentially, and we would need to consult with legal counsel. It said if the board chose to go for a phase 2, they would be prepared to provide us with an amended PNS, but again, it would be subject to the property owner agreeing to that, because there were no provisions for a phase 2 or further assessment into that.
Our purchase and sales, they met the requirements of the purchase and sales,
Who did?
the owner of the property. We had 2 conditions on that purchase and sales agreement that we decided on by this committee to go forward with. We had 2, one was right
Phase
away,
one.
and one was to have that phase 1 study done, and both of them passed. So are we out of contract if we don't go ahead with it, once they vet those?
Good question.
And today's the last day.
My concern again is that when we talk about planning and we see large-scale developments, and that's what this is a large-scale development, just happens to be the town of Goffstown who is the developer. When we talk about scattered and premature development, because we don't have enough information, we don't know the full build-out plan, so we can't make an informed decision. As the planning board said, they said we don't have enough information to make an informed decision. I believe this is just the first step in a much bigger plan that are gonna have cost way above and beyond $120,000, way above and beyond. That's not transparent. In this day and age, when people are clamoring about being transparent about where the taxpayers' dollars are being spent, this is one small piece to a much, much bigger puzzle that's gonna have a very big price tag on it.
But Collis, wouldn't any of those decisions, if we were going to try to build something, wouldn't that go to the voters?
I don't know if we're gonna bond it, I assume it would. It depends how we're gonna do this. Again, as the planning board said, we don't have enough information to make an informed decision. And I am of the same belief, that we don't have enough information to make an informed decision.
Well, let's put it this way, Collis. It's a piece of property that we own. Now, would you be able to go out and find a piece of property that we could put a police station on and purchase it?
That's a what if.
And just like you, what if? You
No,
know,
it's
just
not
it's
a
a
what
what
if.
if.
No,
We
it's not.
own a piece of property that we can develop. We don't own any other property that we can do that with. We've tried and tried with the county, nothing's going on there. There's nothing, I mean, we would have to go out and purchase a piece of property.
It's not a question of developing it, Peter, it's a question of at what cost. Because this is gonna fall on the taxpayers' backs, one way or another. Which already got $120,000 that's falling on their backs. How are you gonna, where's the money gonna come from?
We already have the money.
We do.
We have the $120,000.
I'm not talking about the $120,000 now, that's a drop in the bucket compared to what it's gonna cost for this plan that we've already seen. We've already seen a concept plan. There's people out there who've seen a concept plan who've asked me, how in the heck are they gonna build this thing? How much is this gonna cost at full build-out? Don't have a clue, can't tell you, sorry.
Where is the concept plan?
We've seen it.
Just the square on the piece, like the footprint?
We have, no. The concept plan that shows a police station, a Parks and Rec building, some additional fields, some roadways and parking areas, and a connector road up through to
Okay.
Elm
I
Street.
thought that that was just a footprint measurement of what physically could fit on the remainder of that property. Am I wrong? Did we decide something that I missed?
No, I don't know, but he's coming up with this, not me. I mean,
Not
I
coming
know
up
what
with it.
plan he's talking about, you know, and it's actually, you know, it's a wish list done by Parks and Rec and Police Department,
Please, help me
the
out.
both of them.
Please throw
No,
me a
but
bone.
and that's what, and it was a potential that something that could be done if we had access to the back of that property.
It's a
Is that
concept,
bad?
it's a concept plan.
In order to even think about putting a plan there, we need to get up over, we need to put that $120,000 to purchase that piece of property to get up there.
Yes, that's the first step in the process.
Exactly. There's no sense building a concept plan, doing a set of plans if we don't have access to it.
Why not? Don't we own the property up there?
Well, we don't own the bottom property to get up there.
Well, we own the rest of it. Once you get up the
You
hill,
lost me.
where Parks and Rec is, that's where all the development plan is. It's up on top. It's the new police station, it's the new Parks and Rec building, it's all the parking, it's additional Parks and Rec fields, and it's a through street to Elm, to make a connection over to Elm.
What a great idea. That's a good concept to me.
Yeah, how much is it gonna cost? Exactly, we don't know. That's like the planning board says, we don't have enough.
Like you said, the 120 is a drop in the bucket.
It sure is. And that kind of a plan.
And it's nothing to do with, we don't have to raise taxes for it.
Can I ask, does the planning board have to approve it?
No.
And if we're gonna put a road or something, they'd have to, no? There's no impediments to,
There is
What-
an application process with a governmental subdivision wants to develop, that they must give notice to the planning board, whether it's county, state, or town. So there is a process by which, but,
Yeah, and seek input from them, but we
and seek
don't,
input and a public hearing where butters are notified, but
but we aren't
it's not the
bound.
same as a private
Right,
developer.
because we aren't bound by zoning or development regulations.
Correct,
Unlike a private-
for municipal uses.
Correct. Unlike a private developer would be.
so that's a gamble we have to take if we buy it at this point. That if we were gonna do something, that would pass all those, just like any other thing.
So, once we own the property, just follow me along, once we own the property, then we can come up with a development plan, right? If the plan doesn't go through, it's never gonna go through, we can turn around and sell the property. They have offers on the property now.
And in the meantime, we spent $120,000.
But if we sell the property, we'll get our money back.
Probably make a little bit more.
I'm just saying, you know, if they have offers on the property now, 2-3 years when we start really getting into development, if it doesn't work, call us.
So they're gonna say, we've got all those offers on the property to force us to make a decision at that price.
No, they had offers at more than that price.
I haven't seen them.
Well, why would you see somebody else's offer on a piece of property?
Have you seen them?
No, but I don't think they'd lie to me. I've known these people too long. And anybody that knows about this project has thought that was a good idea. Some of the more knowledgeable people in town when it comes to construction and stuff have said, that's a good idea coming up from the backside. But I can show you on here, some people have said that, you know.
Just one more question, but I know you've told me that if we bought it, that we could put a road there. It's feasible and it.
We were told by DPW.
DPW. So there's some actual testing, or there's a real opinion that we can
Yeah.
hang our hats on, that we
Well,
can do that.
DPW said it would require some significant earth moving as well as some significant retaining walls. These are high-ticket items. This is big bucks building this road to get up through there. But I'm not gonna speak for Adam. He's sitting back there, he's seen it.
What's it gonna cost to buy us a piece of property that we can access? And where would we buy it?
We're talking about this piece of property.
I'm gonna make the motion that we purchased a piece of property at the current purchase and sales agreement. No second, we're not gonna purchase it. What's our liability, you know?
There was no, I don't believe you have any liability, there was no deposit made on it, and the PNS did clearly state that it was subject to the 4114A process, which ultimately ends with a select board vote to acquire, so.
Okay.
Yeah, and the motion fails without a second.
All right, can we talk about this for a second before?
Go ahead.
I'm having a hard time right now because we're talking about a lot of different things, and they're all hypothetical, right? So I'm trying to walk through, and I would like your guys' input on what my thought process is right now. So this property, we didn't get input from planning. Conservation said they would like to have the property for wetlands. If we purchased it, we still don't actually know if we can construct a road or how much it would be how much it would cost. If it was something that was feasible, we talked about washout, we talked about all of those different things, right? Also, conservation is interested in this road. And,
Property, right.
right, to the property. And, which I don't know how much of the wetland it would entail, but
I walked it last week, right after that rainstorm, it wasn't bad at all.
I just mean for the conservation point of it. And we would have the option to potentially sell it again. So just on this property alone, we're talking about a couple different things that are possible. I hear what you're saying about the police station, any kind of development back in the fields, in the Parks and Rec development. That's a whole nother, much larger, more in-depth planning process for getting architectural design, things like that, going to the voters for approval. So in my mind, I'm thinking even to do some sort of road development that would require a pretty big, like, I don't even know what it takes to map out if we could build a road and retaining walls, but I would assume that as a board, that would be something that we would ask to do, right? I mean, that would take some significant funding. And that would be the first step in even having a conversation about what could potentially happen in that space after. Right, so I'm trying to map this out in my brain of like what phases require oversight from, there would be voter participation in this process, there would be, I mean, years, I would imagine, right? I'm trying to break this down logically for, does it make sense for us to purchase this piece of property right now for X, Y, and Z reasons? And if one of those things happen, like, is this a good piece of property for conservation? I don't know, but they seemed interested in the wetland conservation of it, so to me, that's a good thing. Worst case, we sell it, potentially make some money. I don't know, I'm trying to, you know what I mean? Like, I think that, I get what you're saying, but I think that's like a way further down the road part of the discussion. Because to me, that we haven't even taken 5 steps into having like an actual talk about the cost and all those things. And to me, that would be like a whole nother voter process, architectural design, everything. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to break down just
I do
this
know what you mean.
specific.
But let's be clear, the planning board said they did not have enough information to make an informed decision. They mentioned additional environmental work, but they didn't say that was their only concern. They said they didn't have enough information to make an informed decision.
Right. But to Jim's point, and in my brain too, if we were gonna be like, hey, we're gonna do some massive construction to make a road, I mean, I would assume that we would ask them for their input environmentally. Like, we talked about the grade, we talked about the washout, we talked about all of those things. So I think even to get to that point, you know, I know you have to do measurements of steep and, like, you talked about the retention. So even in and of itself, even getting to the point where we could talk about doing some sort of construction and a price, I don't foresee that happening for a while, you know? And at that point, if they were like, absolutely not, you guys are crazy, whomever's on the board, I mean, wouldn't that be enough to prevent something catastrophic from, I mean, I would assume that building an inadequate road and retention would be a catastrophic failure on our part. I don't foresee us doing anything like that irresponsibly. But if you're connecting those things, I'm trying to figure out.
The problem
I'm
is,
trying to separate the
this is the
things.
reason, this was the reason we didn't go out and say, well, this is going to be a potential for this, or potential for that, okay? We can, if we own the piece of property and we decide to do some development up there, could potentially take the road and the project, put it all in the same bond and do it. Would that be accurate? I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't.
We
Absolutely.
don't even know if we
Okay.
can actually build a road
Right.
though. That's what I'm,
So-
like, we
so-
are way so
so-
far off from talking
so-
about that.
If the long-range vision and the long-range plan is to put a road in to connect Henry Bridge to Elm Street, then let's look at that first phase and figure out what the cost of that roadway is. Now we've got opportunities to do whatever else we want to do for vis-à-vis police stations, fire stations, recreational fields, recreational buildings, whatever wants to go up there, but, I
But
mean,
I think what Pete's getting at, and what I'm hearing both of you, he's saying if we don't take the plunge and purchase it, then we lose that opportunity potentially in the future if someone else owns it. So I'm hearing both of you of what you're saying, and I think that maybe in the motion, we can put some sort of stipulation on use for that land and how we make decisions moving forward of like, if we were to propose anything as a board, that there would be some oversight that would add to your concerns, and I think all of our concerns. I mean, I'm not a conservationist, I don't know, but I would hate to lose it like we've lost out on opportunities in the past for potential properties. Because I don't know if it's possible, and I'm not willing to say that that's the goal, because I don't even think that that's a realistic thing for me to say, because that's for sure not my area of expertise.
I would not anticipate building the road until we have a complete plan up there. Because there'd be no, as far as I'm concerned, if we're not gonna develop the backside, there's really no reason to have the road. But if we're gonna develop it, it's good to have the property and the access to it. Okay, and that's been my point all along. We just need the access to it so we have potential. Without that road, the potential decreases for the use. And I've never have advocated that we put a road in first from
well,
that, and that was, somebody brought that up. Well, if we did this, we could put a road in. That's all been just chatter. It's never been a plan.
but we've already got access to it. We've got
We
access
have
to it.
one entrance to it.
We've got, yes, from Elm Street.
One. That's it, just one.
So,
Anything happens up that end, then what happens?
so to say we don't have access isn't accurate. We do have
No, I
access.
didn't say, we don't have as good an access to the back. How's that? We don't have a road built back there yet. So we're still gonna have to build a road, right?
Correct.
Okay. Again,
Hey,
motion didn't pass, so let's move on. I think we're missing a perfect opportunity to own a piece of property for a little, 2.25 acres for $120,000 in Goffstown. It's pretty
Okay, let me
cheap.
ask another question. What would be the... I'm still thinking. If we were to buy this property, we're talking about things down the road, let conservation work on it.
There's nothing to work on. They just want to leave it as it is. They want to dig out the gravel and
Yeah,
put
but I
it
mean,
back to its natural state,
is
which
there opportunity for them to look at potential pieces of it in a more...
it's one piece of property. They're not going to do a subdivision on it. I mean,
I mean, where are
the
you
owner
at,
of the
Mark?
property's got somebody waiting to buy it. That's all I got to tell you. If you don't believe me, fine. They'll be in front of the planning board, they'll go in, and because of the shortage of housing, they'll go to the state, yeah, you can put a house on that little piece of property, don't worry about it.
Mark, where are you at with that?
I want to buy the property.
So,
But I'm still listening to all the debate and all the discussion. I agree with what Collis is saying. We buy the property now, we hold on to it. It's like the school did. They bought that property out back. They paid, what, $15 million for it, or whatever? I mean, we buy this piece of property. It's money in the bank for us. We hang on to it, we hold it. Later on down the road, a year or so, maybe
5 years. doesn't
5 years,
matter.
who knows? We have that property. We've taken that first step, Kelly, into buying or making that road. And I'm still, as I listen to all the debate, I'm in favor of purchasing the property. And I'll make another motion. Henry Bridge Road, map 27, lot 6-1. I understand, we're rolling the dice and taking a risk.
You making the motion to purchase the property?
Yep, I am.
Can't you just second what Peter said?
Huh?
Can't you just second what Peter said?
I'll second what Peter said, if you wanna do that, don't matter to me.
So,
Jim,
just
where are you
my
at?
one concern is, I see, I'm like you,
I know.
I see both sides. One thing that concerns me is nobody has shown me anything that we can actually put a road there at all. And there's no way we can determine that before we purchase it, but buy some time to do, or whether it's even, I don't know. That's the thing that
The
bothers me.
problem is if they sell it,
We lose
which
it.
is where we're at. And that's the thing that I'm struggling with is I don't believe that we know that we can even do it, let alone what it will cost.
It was determined by the town engineer, they went and looked at it, and they said they thought it was feasible.
They said that road could be done with, I believe, an 8-degree slope. We could make that road happen.
It would require extensive earthworking
Oh, I
and
understand,
extensive
Collins.
retaining
I
walls.
agree 100%.
And the question is, at what cost?
Well,
This is
yeah.
all about money. In this day and age, with default budgets and everybody being scrutinized on where the money's going, at what cost?
I agree, at
Derek-
what cost, and what it's gonna cost us in the future, if we don't purchase it now.
How much do we have in the land purchasing fund?
Well, offhand about $500,000. I don't know the exact amount. I can, if you want the exact
That's
amount,
okay.
but.
No,
it's-
Augustus, okay.
Well, the other thing is, can we lose money on this? We can put the road in, and that's one option. We can just put it in conservation, that's okay, and we could sell it. So there is a good use for the town, whatever we do. And I do think it's prudent to buy access. But I'm not sure that we can actually have access. I'm just uncomfortable taking, well, he said, Joe said it, we can do it, and Fred said we can do it. I wish we had more, something more concrete about that.
But we would have to budget for that to do that kind of
Yeah,
study.
and we can't, so we're kind of in a,
And even if we do buy the land, what's to say, or if we don't have access to it, we have the land, we can still put the police station there, and yeah, we go out on the Elm Street.
and I don't call this, I don't see that buying this means we're gonna put it's an idea, but I don't see it, as happening just because we buy this, I think.
I'm gonna ask Adam to come up, because he's got some information on it, because he's the one we asked originally to take a look at it.
I don't want to let anybody down, I do not have the magic answer here, but I will tell you what we do know. Our engineering staff did take a look at it. The question posed to us initially was, we've got a grade here, we've got a grade that we own up here. If we were to build up here, could a road work? So from the, our maximum road slope requirements, it would work. There would be, as Collis mentioned, a pretty significant cut into the hillside to be able to get a road up, plus drainage on the sides and, whatever else might be included. So from a slope perspective, it does work. There are retaining walls when you make a cut that big, or you would have to cut back. We're a little bit limited there because there's a fairly good-sized Eversource transmission line at the top of the slope. So just benching back or sloping back the sides to a large degree is not an option because their poles are so close together. But with retaining walls, and I'm not going to throw out any numbers, but if you do have the plan in your chambers, I think Eric Gustafson did do an estimate of how tall each retaining wall would need to be on both sides. We did give that to Eversource and said, hey, if this was to come to you, would you veto such a plan with retaining walls? And they said it's okay as long as they're, they can still access the poles from the other sides. They would be okay with the retaining walls, the width of which Eric proposed to them. So from a slope perspective and from Eversource's perspective, yes, it could work. And Collis, I think, hit the nail on the head. Anything can be built. Hesitate to throw out any kind of numbers, but for a road of that length and a big slope cut in some sort of box culvert at the bottom. I mean, you're probably talking $500,000 if I had to guess, for something like that to happen. But you probably would want to do the engineering for the road construction, if there was to be one, included with any building plans, and like you said, put it out as one.
Put it in one bundle.
One item. To have us chip away at it is probably not reasonable. That's a pretty big
And
job.
Harry Brook poses a serious constraint as well, because if you're gonna cut back side slopes, what are you gonna do with Harry Brook? And that is a significant water course in this town.
Right. So,
Significant.
and yes, this stream doesn't go very far before it gets into Harry Brook. I won't speak for any future development, but there probably is some benefit that could be had as part of any project. We'd have to make it better, or at least no worse than we found it. So yes, could you have your cake and eat it too, where you're improving the quality of the wetland there? Yes, but that's going to make any project a little bit more complicated too. So anyway, that's pretty much every.
Does that help you a little bit, Jim?
Yeah, it does, thank you.
Thanks.
Collis, with those caveats of potentially that being a possibility, regardless of cost, but, because that's gonna be, Lord knows, for when the time comes. But with the caveats of selling it back or conservation, does that help your
Sorry,
decision?
the caveats of selling it back.
That we have the option, sorry, dust
okay.
from the.
For conservation to have it.
That conservation could have it, or we could potentially sell it again at a later time. Does that help your decision at all? Because those, for me, make me a little bit more comfortable with
So
it,
buy it at $120,000 now, and potentially sell it at some point in the future.
that that's an option. I think having an option or to give it to conservation to, if they're like a road is this much money and we just, okay, conservation can have it.
And that's not, what would conservation do with it?
Well, I don't know, they said they would like to have it, so, I don't know.
In their response to us, they said they'd like to have the property.
And they said we should consider giving it to the Conservation Commission. For
Well,
what-
that must
for
mean
what
they
pur-
want it if they
for
want us
what
to give it to
purpose?
them.
For what purpose? If
So
we
the-
can't build on it, what are they gonna do with it?
So I think the motion at conservation, because I was at that meeting, was, this was a secondary motion, was to recommend the select board acquire it through purchase or donation for the purpose of restoring the wetlands on the property and protecting Harry Brook. So
Sounds
that
about
was
right.
the motion.
That sounds about right. Not for building a road.
But they did, it doesn't matter. I mean, we own the property, we'll do what we want with it. And if it's not feasible, we won't do it.
I spoke my mind, Peter. I can hear it now. We already spent $120,000. I think we should spend $250,000 more to do a full engineering plan on a road with cuts and walls and drainage and everything else, and say, now we've already spent $120,000 and $250,000. We should spend another $200,000, and I can just see this thing snowballing and snowballing when we really ought to have those answers up front, so we go into this with our eyes wide open.
Yeah, but the problem with that is he'll sell it to somebody else and,
Yeah, we lose the land.
if we're gonna buy it, and tonight, we gotta take that risk. That's what I don't like, but, it's
But
just a
you have
decision we gotta
options,
make.
though.
Yeah,
You know, we have the options.
I understand that, yeah. That makes me feel better.
We
Derek?
also have an option coming in from the other side, from Elm Street, and I haven't heard that discussed at all. And what's the potential of that compared to this? Not only that, you're gonna be putting a road at one of the most dangerous sections of road in this town, the foot of Henry Bridge Road. Extremely steep, extremely hazardous, and we're gonna put a driveway there where our emergency vehicles are gonna be coming in and out of it. I mean, there's just so many things wrong with this that I'm just not gonna support it. It's a horrible idea to put a driveway there.
Well, it's also tough when you have to come from Elm Street, go up through the roundabout, come back down Henry Bridge, then shoot back if you gotta go to Ponanville. This cuts that whole loop out. if we go with the police, if that ever happens. Like you said, the voters may turn it all down when time comes, you can't tell. So, there's a motion on the floor, it's been seconded. Motion is to go ahead with the purchase of the property. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No, and I want to go on record for the reasons why I'm casting a no vote. I think I've made it perfectly clear as to why I'm casting the no vote.
Abstaining?
I think to the best interest of the Goffstown taxpayers.
Who voted? Mark, did you vote?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the vote? I missed.
4-1.
4-1? 4, yeah, 4. You abstained or you're just against it, right?
Yes, I vote no.
Motion passes 4-1-0. The next 11A, we made some adjustments to the meeting dates in May due to Memorial Days on a Monday. Is there any questions or any problems with that?
Probably.
Can I get a motion?
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
So the motion to approve the proposed schedule change to account for Memorial Day holiday on the fourth Monday of the month.
I'll second Collis's motion.
Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, seeing none.
I'll
Move
be
it.
gone on the 6th.
Huh?
I'll get it later, but I'm gonna miss some stuff.
We have discussed the proposed changes to the Goffstown Code of Conduct. And we have some in our packets. Has anybody had a chance to read through it? Yep.
Yeah.
We have the red line is all the
Yeah, do you want me to go through them real quick?
if you want, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so I updated the exclusions to add a couple of exclusions that we see in some other examples from around the state, to include first responders acting in their official capacity, that a code of conduct complaint would not come forward on that. For supervisors of town employees that are carrying out personnel policies, and then also for any community official that's acting for voluntary service to a charitable organization. Also, just a clarifier, that last paragraph there, this would only apply to employees and volunteers under the direction of the town of Goffstown. So it would not include sewer commissioner or Goffstown Public Library, the school district, or the water precincts. In terms of complaints, I think what the board wanted, my understanding what the board wanted to see was a more defined process for submitting complaints. So this would, spells out a reporting process that would go through the town clerk's office. And then those complaints would be, a written complaint would be given to the respondent or the individual that was, that the perceived code of conduct complaint came in against, that they would receive a copy of that, and then the appointing authority would have to respond to it. So for a member of an elected body, that would go to that elected body. To a member of an appointed board, that would be to the select board. For any department heads, that would come to the select board as a personnel matter, and then for any other town of Goffstown employees, it would go to their respective department head. And then they would need to investigate any violations and act as appropriate within the procedures established by other town policies, collective bargaining agreements, personnel policies, state statute, and a code of conduct.
Question.
Go ahead.
So employees and volunteers under the direction of the Goffstown Public Library, Goffstown Sewer Commission, and the Goffstown Village Water Precinct in Grassmere. Is that, and it says community elected, or officials elected, So you're saying that those boards, their elected parties or appointed parties would not fall under this?
So those parties are under exclusions, are under Roman numeral 3 exclusions, and that community officials elected, hired, or appointed by the Goffstown School District. So it's any school district, a school board, or superintendent. So again, they're a different governmental subdivision.
So my question was if, are any of those people signing their appointment paperwork? Because we have them sign the code of conduct piece at the bottom.
So I think because we'd be adding that to the exclusions of the code of conduct policy, we would have the town clerk change which actual boards,
Okay.
which actually sign
I just
it.
want to make sure it doesn't, like, if they sign it, saying they agree to it, it doesn't,
Yeah, we would
negate.
need to do the sign-off sheet that we have done. But again, this would apply to less, I guess, appointed and elected officials. So Kathy would have fewer of these to give out.
and could we give them the option if they did want to fall under this?
I don't know how we would,
Yeah, that'd be kind of confusing.
yeah, I think it'd be confusing. 'cause-
Well, like the library, for example, I'm not saying that they would want to do this, but they often adopt things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like,
We can
could
send
they
it to the
choose
library.
to-
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, we can send it to them, and if they're interested, they could adopt it as well, or revise it as they see fit.
okay.
You need a motion to adopt this?
No, you didn't-
Go ahead, Joe.
Part C of the new part that, I'm unclear what, the appointing authority, and that in some circumstances is us, shall investigate alleged violation and act as appropriate within the procedures established within state statute, personnel, yada, yada. What does that mean?
So again, there's not much in state statute for actual enforcement of this code of conduct. Most of the time, if somebody were to use their power for financial gain, then someone would actually go to the courts
Right.
for enforcement of that. There are some other towns that have an ethics committee. It was not my sense that the select board wanted to form an ethics committee, but they would have an ethics committee that has findings. But again, there's not a whole lot that you can do. The only exception to that is towns and cities with charters. Many times they have a recall procedure for elected and appointed officials. Again, there is no recall provisions in state statute that I'm aware of, and this town does not have a charter, so recall is not an option.
So we're largely gonna be toothless with most complaints.
Correct. Yes.
And we're in instruction. We can't even tell people to take an ethics course or something like that.
I mean, we could
A
request
suggestion
it,
can be made,
yeah.
yep.
I think
Okay.
it gives just more formality to how we respond to people in regards to, like, there might not be very much we can do, but it helps formalize the process for when a
Like-
complaint comes in, what happens after that.
I get that part, and that's a good thing, but I just want to, we have to make a decision. Are we gonna have any teeth, or we not, or we're just gonna be instructive, and it's okay either way, I guess. Apparently, that's what we're gonna do, just listen, investigate, we have people come in and listen to what happened, and then say, don't do it again.
Okay.
I mean, that's okay.
Are you happy with this or not? Do you want to table it and look at it some more? Is that what you?
Well, I mean, does
Yes, sir.
anybody else think that we should have some powers, and that's okay if we don't, it's just a
No,
decision.
that's what I thought before, that, it's a policy with no teeth, like you said. If somebody does something wrong, we're just gonna pass a letter on to them and say, we had a complaint against you. We're really, nothing we can do. Is that pretty much?
That is, and I would say for powers, you have to look at state law and see where's your authority to do anything. For the most part, when you're dealing with these code of conduct complaints that you're receiving, they're not,
There's no statutory
there's no
powers.
statute. There is talk in the statutes when there is a financial interest. But that's enforced again through the courts.
I think it gives us more of a, like, we've started figuring out where the communications lies, so to your point, we could request that people do things. We haven't really done that before.
What if somebody's doing something that's benefiting their family or something, and they're not doing anything illegal, but there's kind of like a conflict of interest, and I think even the appearance of a conflict of interest, could we tell them you can't do that?
I think you could make findings.
Make it
You can make findings, but even when, my experience has been on land use boards, and I know Collis, this is probably, you've seen this, you may have abutters that come up and demand somebody recuse themselves. An abutter can't demand that of an elected official. Even other board members can't demand that, even if they were to all vote against that. It's just not how the state statutes are set up.
I mean, I don't want to go down a rat hole with this either, but, you know.
No, there's all kinds of rat holes, this thing, and always has been.
The only other option that other communities have is they have an ethics committee, where you take, whether you appoint members only to serve on that, or you take from other committees to serve on that when a complaint comes in. And again, they are making findings.
They don't have any power either.
Except in the cities and towns that had a charter and had a provision for recall.
Okay,
But again, we do not have a charter in Goffstown.
so it doesn't make any sense to form another committee that doesn't have any power, any
Right.
more power than we do, so.
So are we happy with this? Need a motion with this?
If the board's pleased with those changes, if you could vote to adopt those, and then we can provide it to the town clerk so she's aware of it, and we'll get that posted and distributed to all affected individuals.
You want to make that motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the changes to the Goffstown Code of Conduct for under 3 exclusions, 4 complaints, and 5 Code of Conduct and amendments.
Second that.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion passes. I did want to bring up one more thing, I don't know if this is where we talk about it, the Building Appeals Board, what we're doing with that, or?
So the Building Appeals Board, I know at your last meeting you had some questions about that. We are still, Danielle reached out to NHMA for some guidance on that, and we have some research that needs to be done about how that was adopted by town meeting, and to provide clear direction on that. And I think probably the best thing to do is, before appointing anyone to that committee at this point, is to allow Danielle and I to finalize a recommendation on that board, whether it was adopted correctly at town meeting, if any changes need to be made, and we hope to bring that to you at your next meeting.
Okay. Okay, moving on to old business. Nothing's happening on number 1. Pedestrian bridge.
So the committee did vote, oh, sorry, Selectman Adams, did you want to?
So on number 1, you're talking about the action matrix?
Yep.
So that's the first item, review options for a police station. When are we gonna see some options for a police station? It's been on here for many, many months, review options. I'd like to see some options. We just keep kicking this can down the road, and it came up tonight with extensive discussion. When are we gonna see some options? That'll compare pros and cons and relative to cost of each of the options. I mean, otherwise, we just keep carrying this forward. It's an item on our action matrix, big deal.
Well, let's get back to the reason why that was on the action
Yeah,
matrix.
yeah.
Do you know why? Do you remember why?
Yeah,
Because we were we were trying to
Yeah.
negotiate with the county.
yeah. I agree.
That's what,
And I know
that originally was brought up there, and I can tell you, it's probably been on there since right before COVID, when
Yeah,
Derek and I don't know if, when Nora met with them, so that's been 4 years now, so,
many
It's
months,
still
many
an
months,
issue.
Many months, yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, it stays on there, until we come up with a plan for a new police station, which we haven't done yet. So how are we on the bridge, pedestrian bridge?
The ad hoc committee met, finalized the final plan, final report. Derek, did Andy get that to you? I think he may
He
have.
has not, but he did indicate that the ad hoc committee would like to come to the select board and present their final report on May 6th.
Good.
Thank you.
Are they gonna be looking for a vote of some kind?
I had only seen the draft, and I don't believe there were any action items that were immediately required. Most of it was to wait for the TAP, Transportation Alternative Program grant that they anticipate to be released later this summer and fall.
Yeah, an established 501c3, which we've decided we can piggyback on the rail trails 501c3.
Yes, the Friends of Gloucester.
Yeah.
And firehouse subs grant, we heard anything out of that?
We're finishing it up and we'll be applying.
Okay, you haven't applied yet, you're in the process of doing that.
Right.
Ambulance 2,
An inverter issue's gotta be replaced.
and solid waste,
Same, no change.
okay. Anything else, Derek?
No, that is it.
Mark?
Recommendation to go into non-public session RSA 91A:32 for compensation, hiring, and what's on that?
So A, compensation, B, hiring, C, adversely affect reputation, and E, consideration of litigation.
Before I let you make that motion, is there anybody here for public comment? Seeing none, we'll close that. Go ahead, Mark. Well, that was a motion?
Yeah, that
So,
was a
sorry, so we
motion.
got A, B, and then C was reputation?
C and E.
And E.
C and D.
I'll second.
Motion by Mark, seconded by Kelly, go into non-public. All in favor? That's a roll call?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes.
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 That'll conclude tonight's public portion of the select board meeting, and we'll be going into non-public now. Thank you.